looking at what is the future of work, what is the future of working, and what this can mean for the organization globally. And there was a lot of deep thinking, not only around how are we going to hire and fire people, which is kind of the tactics of it, but really how do we begin to rethink how we think about a conversation around talent. And this is so critical because the world is becoming much more adaptive, and the need and necessity for that is
like, what does that mean for not only the skills required, but what does it mean for the jobs? And recognizing that that by 2022, that the skills that are going to be required are going to change by 42%. Like, just, that's almost half of what we know now is going to have to be different. One of the key priorities and key tenets was, how do we change the way we change? Not even just think, but how do we change the way that we approach this? And I think one of the big takeaways is that we have to involve our people. That has to be a part of this change. Instead of dropping down change on people, it's changing with people. That how do we engage them in this dialogue that is much bigger than any of us are going to be able to solve on our own.
So one of the big paradigm shifts that I look at when I'm helping people understand what is the shift in the future of work, that we're moving away from a world of or and separation and silos and into a world of and where that is where that's most important is in the societal shift around no longer simply laying people off when a job has become redundant, but rather helping people either relocate themselves inside of the organization or prepare for thriving outside of the organization, because the greater impact of simply letting people go is worse for business than bringing everybody collectively up together. In this component of the individual as the focus, right? How have you individually, yourself, Alison, and the strategy at Unilever helped infuse purpose into the shift in training, the shift in thinking and lifelong learning, and the shift for growing inside of the organization?
Yeah, I think I am always a huge proponent that purpose has to permeate everything. Otherwise, it's not purpose, right? It's a nice marketing campaign. It's a nice HR stat. It's it can, when it lives on its own, they're nice things. But when it really is holistic is when it really becomes strategy. I also think what it has done for me is it has taken the conversation from, what is your career ambition? Like, where do you want to be in 5 years? Where do you want to be in 10 years? Because I look ahead at, you're the expert in the future of workspace. I look ahead and I'm like, I don't know what that role is going to be. I can't tell you a role that I want to be in 5 or 10 years because it probably doesn't exist yet. And so for me to define a role and title almost limits what I'm able and what I think I'm capable of doing.
One of the big things that is no longer working around what the past of work was is that most of us planned our careers in past-rooted questions. What can I logically do with what I've already done? And this, what am I going to do in 5 years or 10 years, is essentially a repetition of that, but looking forward. Whereas you make a shift over into future-focused questions and asking yourself, taking those few steps back, which it sounds like some of this workshop development was, and asking yourself, what do I want to create? What kind of impact do I want to have? What are the things that I value? How do I want to use my life? I think that we could go on for about 400 years inside of this conversation, because there's so much magic and power inside of purpose, and power and value that go to, of course, the bottom line and to a broader definition of value in society as a whole. But in the interest of time, and since we're here together, we're looking out over 2021, and we're looking at a blank canvas. The present moment is a manifestation of everything that's come before, which means that the future is decided in the now. Every now and now that is repeated as we move forward. So what, from your lens and from where you're seated, what piece of advice would you give for others who are also looking out over 2021 with a blank slate?
You kind of get to this point where you can look ahead and and start to create and reimagine and rebuild, or you just start to fall off and you start the spiral. And so I think we're at a point where we can really look ahead and start reimagining, reflecting on what's happened, and not, not taking that away, but really think ahead of to, what we can bring to the table.
The dynamics of the market are moving away from linear dynamics into exponential dynamics. There is no more incremental growth. It's all that kind of hockey stick, nothing, something, everything. And so, so understanding how the major paradigm shifts are occurring, and then particularly for talent, right? When we're looking at a world that was employee management, right? And the basic tenet in Unilever is already doing some work around this. We're shifting into a world that is talent management, where oftentimes your best employees are not even going to be working for your organization. And so understanding that the flexibility and the power in the investment comes from being able to experiment with the models that are going to work for your organization, because over the short, medium, long term, you're actually going to get more return on that investment if and as you understand these shifts.
So, Alicia, I know that, we've talked a lot about where Unilever is going and, some of the initiatives that we've taken off, but obviously we're still continuing to evolve this thought process around the talent models. Can you help just paint a little bit of a picture of kind of the go forward mentality around, how we should be thinking and how others can maybe follow suit?
Gone are the days where it's the hierarchical structure, one company for the rest of forever. That model was gone a long time ago anyway. But this notion of, where is our best talent coming from? It's not about employability, it's about learnability. So what is our ability to learn new things? Our best talent may not be working for us full time. So what are the menu of options of interactions with the organization that we could have here and in this space, and what pockets of the world? So thanks to ubiquitous internet, which should be here in the next 5-ish years, 3.5 to 4 billion people who have never had access to the internet and the educational and entrepreneurial opportunities that it provides are coming online. Got this many billion of people who could be in the workforce creating value together with the organization. So flexibility is the name of the game, opening up to all the possibilities that technology is bringing into the space, and then always turning our assumptions on their heads. Is what we're thinking and how we're thinking about talent actually how it is, or could it be different?
It's exciting.
Yeah.